Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. My name's Tanya, and this is the second video in a series of 4 on how to make things out of our honey roll recipe, which we've already done the honey roll video, but this is the second one. We're gonna make cinnamon rolls today. That's kind of giveaway. That's what most people do with roll dough, I guess. That's just a default to do with your yeast roll when you learn how to make it and start having fun with it. These are going to be a little different than probably some that you've had before in just a few subtle ways, but they turn out so fabulous. This recipe is not for our family. We're not going to be having it. This is for my dog groomer. I tip her in food items, and she's always so excited about it, but I'm giving her a whole pan of cinnamon rolls this time. And she is very excited. She doesn't know what she's gonna get, but she always says, yes ma'am, I'll take it. And she's so sweet, and she's so very good at what she does. So Miss Nellie, this one is for you, and let's go make some cinnamon rolls. All right, we're gonna go over our basic instructions for making the honey rolls. For those of you who are not familiar with the honey rolls and have seen the video before, you might refer back to that just for little details of it, but we're gonna go kind of quick, just kind of skim over the top in the highlights of making these. So I have 1 cup of whole milk heating on the stove. This is just warm. When I say warm, we're looking at ideally between 110 and 115 degrees. If you have a thermometer, that's great. If you don't have a thermometer, put your finger in it, and if it's a little difficult to tell when your finger actually hits the liquid, you're at probably a good temperature. Pour that in our mixing bowl. To that, we are going to add our yeast, and we're going to let that activate for just a bit before we start adding the other ingredients. We're going to put about 2.5 teaspoons of yeast in here. And we'll wait for that to just get a little bubbly around the edge. You can tell when it's activating. It's not rocket science. It goes from dry granules to where it looks like they're coming alive. That's actually what they're doing. They're coming alive. So you're going to get to witness that. So we'll wait just a minute or so till that activates. All right, I see a little bit of activity in there. I'm going to take this to show you what it looks like inside. And if I slosh it around just a little bit, it would even expedite that process just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add our other ingredients on my favorite spatula in here. In this cup, I have 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil. It's organic olive oil, and I also have 2 tablespoons of honey. Now, if you want to use raw organic honey, that's fine. I would always recommend using something clean and organic, but just make sure it's real honey. But since it is going to be baked and it's going to be under high heat, you don't have to worry too much about it being raw, because it's not going to be raw once it gets heated up anyway. So just my opinion, but use what you have. We're also going to add an egg to this, just 1 large egg. Add my dough hook to it, to the mixer. We'll plug this in and just give this a stir. Then we're going to add 3.5 cups of organic unbleached flour and get this going. 1. 2. 3. 1.5. We're going to put 1.5 teaspoons of salt on the top of this. We're going to turn our mixer on for 5 minutes. Okay, our mixer's been on about 5 minutes, so we're going to turn this off. We're going to let it rest for another 5 minutes, and then we'll come back. We'll turn it on for 40 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to put my baking sheet. You've seen this hideous baking sheet and my drawer liner. I don't even know what this is called. I think it's called drawer liner, but I'm not sure. It's something you buy in the big store over with the kitchen supplies. It's what you put on your shelves in your cabinets, I think. I don't want to put it on my shelves in my cabinet because nothing scoots along, and I want them to scoot along. So I'm going to put this down, put my baking sheet on top of it, and put my mixer on it. Otherwise, my mixer migrates across the cabinet, almost onto the floor. Like frighteningly close to the edge of the countertop. Okay, we'll be back in about 5 minutes, and we'll turn this back on. All right, so this has been off, just resting, letting the gluten rest and just get so stretchy and elastic. So we're gonna turn this back on. It's gonna run for 40 minutes now. During that time, just walk off, do something else. Don't leave the house in case your mixer migrates off the countertop like mine does. But we're gonna leave this on again for 40 minutes. Then when we come back, we're gonna let it rest. And we're gonna make up our filling for our cinnamon rolls. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how easy that is and how delicious it is. It's gonna be so good. Miss Nellie's gonna be so excited. So let's turn our mixer back on. We'll be back in just a minute. Okay, our mixer's been running for 40 minutes. We're gonna turn it off now. I'll put the shower cap on and rest for an hour. But we'll be back before that time because we're gonna make up our filling. I have to hurry because somebody just pulled in my garage and my dogs are gonna start barking. So anyway, we'll be back in just a bit to make our filling. Okay, we have about 25 minutes left before our dough has completely risen all the way. So we're gonna get our filling for our cinnamon rolls mixed up in a bowl. So here I have 1/2 of a stick or 1/4 of a cup of butter. And I just placed this metal bowl on top of my stovetop on super low heat and melted it all the way. To that, we are going to add about 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. If you like a lot of cinnamon, feel free to add more. It's not rocket science on this one. It's not a specific measurement for a specific reason. It just all has to do with flavor at this point. 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. And if you've never purchased any allspice, I'd encourage you to go to some place where they sell it in bulk form. You don't use a lot of it in a lot of things, but the things you do add it to, it really does make a nice difference. This adds all the warmth that cinnamon rolls really benefit from. About 1/4 teaspoon of salt, or maybe just a tad less than that, because that'll balance out the sweetness that you're gonna have from the sugar in this. Let's get that cinnamon mixed up well in there, and then we'll add our sugar and our honey to it. The reason I add both is because sugar is of course in granular form, but honey is what's considered an invert sugar that will not solidify when it's in baked goods. So it's gonna keep that center part where the cinnamon is in kind of a moist form instead of just grainy. I see people make cinnamon rolls and they'll take and they'll pour their sugar on, then they'll dust some cinnamon over it, and then they'll start rolling up, and I'm thinking, that's gonna have a crunch to it. Oh, but this has a delightful, very smooth cinnamon filling on the inside. We're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of honey to this. I'm just gonna eyeball this. Okay, so we'll say close to 2 tablespoons there. And this is just a brand that I buy at my local big store because it's inexpensive and it's real honey. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it. I make no apologies for buying that honey, that's for sure, because it's got a great flavor to it as well. Get that mixed in, and now we'll add our sugar to it. And this is a 1/2 cup of sugar. And this is just unbleached sugar from the supermarket. I would encourage you, if you've never tried the Zulka brand, I think that's really the only brand I can find, Zulka, and it comes in a clear bag with some kind of green on the label. That's about all I remember, but that's the sugar that I buy the most. I don't buy just a lot of sugar, not near as much as I used to, but that's a good kind to have. It's unbleached and it's not quite as processed as a lot of sugars are, and it is cane sugar and not beet sugar, and it's non-GMO. So several reasons right there. All right, we're gonna get this mixed up. Now this will, when it cools off a bit and that butter starts to solidify, this will be a little bit thicker, but right now it's in such a spreadable state, it's actually very ideal. So I'm gonna put this back over on the stovetop where I had the burner on just to keep it warm. And then when our dough has risen all the way, which is about another 20 minutes, we will have this ready to spread on there and make our cinnamon rolls. Okay, we'll be back just a bit. Okay, our dough has risen as much as it needs to. We'll take the shower cap off. I'm gonna dump this out on our countertop. This dough is really soft, and because of all the oil that's in it, it's really easy to work with. Notice I didn't flour the countertop before putting the dough down. It does not need it. I have to get every delicious speck out of there. Okay, set that aside. This is how easy it comes off the countertop. I could smash it down and it comes right off. So no problem there. All right, before we roll that out, we want to prepare our pan. Now I have an aluminum pan here because this is going to someone and I don't want them to have to return a baking dish to me. Normally I would put it in a ceramic or a glass baking dish, but aluminum pan it is. But you know, if you've watched many of my videos, I am not a fan of food touching aluminum. So we are going to put parchment on this so the food doesn't touch the aluminum. Now, if you've not seen this trick before or this hack, this is what we do with parchment, because parchment is rather rigid and you put it in the pan and it just goes back to doing whatever it wants to, kind of like my hair or, you know, a lot of things in life. It just does what it wants to do. So if you wad this up, it's almost like letting it know who's in charge, and it's more compliant. So we'll smooth it back out. tin, and it stays there, just like that. So when we get ready to put our cinnamon rolls in, we have it on parchment instead of on aluminum. That's what all that was about. All right, we're gonna roll out our dough. And really and truly, I can't say do it by this many inches, by that many inches, because it all depends on if you want a fat cinnamon roll that's flat or you want a skinny cinnamon roll that's tall. So it's all gonna be the same amount, and you can cut it in as many slices as you want. I'm going to make 12 cinnamon rolls out of this. So I usually just eyeball this, and I can measure this if that would be helpful to you. I have a ruler that I only use for baked goods in a drawer right beside me, so I'll look at that real quick. Once I get it rolled out to where I think that's the size I normally work with. This is probably the easiest dough I've ever worked with. So I'll translate that to, if you have kids who are interested in baking, this would be the dough to make if you want to help them learn how to make it, because it's not easy to get frustrated with it. It's so forgiving, and you can just re-roll it, re-roll it, re-roll it, and it just comes out beautifully every time. You can't say that about all pastry dough. Pie dough, you know, making a pie crust is not quite as forgiving because you're not working with yeast and you're not supposed to handle it that much, and your hands need to be cold, all that. But this, no, nothing like that. Okay, I said I was gonna measure that, didn't I? Okay, this is about 12 by 16. So just rough estimation. All right, now is when the fun happens. This is our mixture that we just made a while ago. That's our cinnamon, sugar, honey, allspice, salt, and butter. And the beauty of this is, I mean, I'll defend this procedure as long as I'm breathing, I think, because I've made it too many times the other way and it just makes a mess. To take that sugar and spread it on there, sprinkle it on, it's dry. You know, after you try to put some butter down there or something, and then you get all your dry ingredients and roll it up, and it's just falling off as you're trying to roll up the cinnamon rolls. This does not fall off. It doesn't make a mess. It's just great. So we're gonna take, and you can use an offset spatula if you have one. I just happen to have my little favorite turquoise spatula here. I'll just spread this out. Now, if you want more filling, feel free to use more. I wouldn't necessarily increase the butter in this, but you're welcome to increase the honey and the sugar and the cinnamon and all that. Just make it to your liking. I don't want to put so much filling in it to where Miss Nellie's child is bouncing off the walls, because I know they're probably going to eat these as soon as I take them over there later on today. And I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Now, if I were making these for myself, I would put raisins in there or some pecans or something like that. But these are just going to be cinnamon rolls. And we'll have a cream cheese glaze we're going to put over these. So be sure and stick around. Watch us fix that. But probably the funnest thing about making any kind of rolls is the hack I'm going to show you about slicing them. All right, make sure you get it all the way to the end. It's not so important to do it on the long ends that you get all the way to the edge, but make sure you get all the way to the edge on the short ends, because that's going to be part of a cinnamon roll that's going to be one whole cinnamon roll that doesn't get something on the very edge of it. And you know, when somebody bites into that cinnamon roll, they want some of that mixture from the center. All right, stick that aside. All right, we're going to take our cinnamon rolls. You can roll them up toward you or toward the opposite way. It doesn't really matter. Take your hands and roll them up just like that. And if you watch this and go, she makes it look so easy. It is easy. That's why I'm showing you this. It is so easy. And see, it's not sticking to the countertop. Put your seam down when you're cutting these. Kind of block it at the end with your finger or with your palm of your hand, just to make sure it's not so skinny at the end, and nobody wants that small piece, trust me. All right, this is the hack I'm going to show you. This is dental floss. In fact, I may have the container. I have the container to the dental floss in here. That's what it looks like. See how old it is? So you're going to take your dental floss. This is probably, I'm guessing, 18, 20 inches long. Wrap it around your fingers like you were going to be flossing your teeth. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we need to talk about that then. We need to talk about learning how to floss your teeth. Okay, get it tight in between your fingers. Make a mark in the center, just an indentation down there. And then one halfway in between that indentation and the end of it. And we're going to go halfway between the center and the other end. And between those, we're going to make 2 marks because we're going to have 12 cinnamon rolls. So in each section of 4, we're going to have 3 rolls. So kind of evenly mark those out like this. Now this is not the cutting part. This is not the hack I'm planning on showing you. This is. So take and slide your dental floss, put it flush with the countertop right here. Slide it underneath it. Find your mark. Cross over. You're not going to tie this. You're not tying a knot in it. You're just crossing it over and pulling, just like that. Slide it under the next one. Cross it over and pull it. Slide it under to the next mark. Cross it over and pull it. Slide it over to the next mark. Cross over and pull it. You can come in from the other end if you'd like to do that. And we're going to cut all these just like this. When you cut these cinnamon rolls with a knife, it pushes down and it makes an oblong shaped roll. You're not even messing with the shape when you do this. It's all coming toward the center. You're maintaining a round shape, and they cut beautifully. And guess what? I just stick that floss back in the drawer, and I just use it over and over again. All right, so we're going to take our rolls. I normally try to take the end pieces, put the outer edge toward the bottom, like that. And then we have our 2 center cinnamon rolls. But nobody knows they're the center rolls because they're upside down. They look like all the rest of them. I don't know why that matters, but it just does. All right, take your other ones. I'm gonna put this right here so the camera will pick that up. And all I'm doing is just peeling these off the countertop like that and sticking them in the pan. And again, nothing's falling out of them. It's not dry, crumbly, it's moist. All right, at this point, I'll take these, put these in the lower oven, I think. Yeah, I can put them in the lower oven. No, I'll just put them in the top oven. And I'll leave the light on in there, and that will provide enough heat. And we'll let those rise for about 40 minutes. I'll take them out, I'll turn my oven on 350, and we're gonna bake these for about 20, 25 minutes or so. Then when they come out of the oven, we'll let them cool off a bit and glaze them. So the next time I'll turn the camera back on, we'll just put them in the oven. So we'll be right back. Okay, real quick, I wanted to show you these cinnamon rolls before they go in the oven. It lasts about 3 minutes, being actually ready for them to go in the oven, and the oven is preheating right now. I actually have some cream cheese. I have 2 ounces of cream cheese in a small bowl on the stovetop over super low heat, just softening because we're gonna make our glaze. shortly after these come out of the oven, but I wanted you to get a good look at these. See if you can see those. How pretty those are. They're just absolutely perfect. There's no dry ingredients in there. It's all beautiful and almost like a cinnamon and cream filling. So it's gonna be lovely. So I'm gonna pop these in the oven in just a bit. We're gonna bake these for about 25 minutes. I'll turn the camera on before I take them out of the oven so you can see them when they're fresh out. So we'll be right back. Okay, our buzzer just went off on our oven again for the second time. I set it for 25 minutes the first time, but they just didn't seem like they were done all the way through. So I gave it another 5 minutes, so we'll see what it's looking like now. Okay, those look better. All right, give you a little bit of a close-up of these. The centers of these will kind of die down a bit. They'll calm down, as I say. And as soon as they cool off, they'll go down a little bit and we'll frost these. We don't want to frost them while they're completely hot because then the glaze just dissolves into the cinnamon rolls and you can't really tell where it is compared to the top of the roll itself. So we want it to be visible as well as good. But they have cream cheese in them and they're going to be so good. So we'll be back in just a bit. We're going to let these cool off. I'd say maybe I'm going to let it cool off for about 20 minutes. And of course, in your time, it'll be just in a second. So we'll come back and make our glaze to put on top and finish these up. All right, I don't know how long it's been since we let these cool off. They're cool enough where I can pick it up and it's not too hot on the bottom of my hand. So I'm guessing it's not so hot that it's going to melt the glaze on the top. So we're going to get started on that. I'll scoot these aside for just a minute. And like I said, I have my cream cheese softened because it's been sitting on just a warm burner on the stovetop. And I have my homemade vanilla. That's what's in this bottle. And I'm gonna put about a half a teaspoon of vanilla in this. And we're also gonna put about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt in this. Don't wanna over salt it, but the saltiness just brings out, it enhances the sweet flavor, if that makes sense. I hope it does to you. It didn't make sense to me until one day, several years ago, back when my daughter was in, I don't know, preschool or elementary school, and I took cupcakes to a function, and I kept thinking, these just don't taste great. They taste okay, but they don't taste great. So I just kept adding more and more sugar to the frosting. And finally it occurred to me, maybe it just needs salt. And oh my goodness, I almost didn't make it to the party with enough cupcakes because I kept testing them because they were so good. So salt is really the key. And you don't want to over salt it. That's easy enough to do, but the salt certainly enhances that sweet flavor. All right, to this, we're going to add powdered sugar. And this is the kind of powdered sugar that I'm using. And I don't have a whole lot. This is actually all I have in the whole house. So when I run out of this, I just have to use granular sugar or go buy some more, but I don't think it's going to take all this. We're going to put about, let's see what about a half a cup does. Powdered sugar in a bag is just an accident waiting to happen to me because no matter how careful I am, somehow it blows up and gets on the counter. All right, now this is going to appear thick, and it is thick. We're going to add either milk or cream, half and half, whatever you have. We're going to add to this to make it the right consistency, but we want to get our cream cheese all mixed up in there too. You could just make a glaze out of milk, a little bit of salt, and the powdered sugar, but the cream cheese sure does add a lot to it. And as you can see, Zoe is my supervisor. Aren't you, Zoe? Yep, she is. They went to Miss Nellie's beauty shop 2 days ago and got their hair cut because they were looking pretty shaggy. Zoe was looking like Chewbacca, and Lacey looked just like a silver mop, so they needed to go pretty badly. Okay, as you can see, this came together kind of like a paste, but I want it to be just a little tiny bit runnier than that. I'm just going to put some heavy cream in there, and not a whole lot at all. Maybe start out with a teaspoon at the most. Okay, that's about the consistency we want. Right there. Scoot this back over there where you can see it. And I'm just going to kind of touch the tops of each one with the spatula. These are warm enough to where the frosting is, or the glaze is kind of settling into the cracks and crevices, but not so much that it's just melting into nothing on there. And lucky is the person who gets the one with a lot of frosting on it. And if you like cream cheese, you know what I mean. All right, I think we pretty much got it distributed evenly on there. So there is our pan of homemade cinnamon rolls made with the honey roll dough, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when you try these. I think you'll surprise yourself. I hope Miss Nellie's surprised with these, and I hope she enjoys them as much as I enjoyed making them and sharing the recipe with you. So next time, look for the third video in a series of 4, and I'll surprise you on what it is. It's not cinnamon, but we look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. And from Zoe and I, bye.